I am your host, Miss Londa. My co-host joining me this evening is Charm. I also have guests joining us. I would like to welcome Charles, Polka, Russ, Hanny, and Shirley. Welcome to the show, you guys. Our discussion this evening is being submissive in your relationship. I would just like to start out by saying that um, I feel like it's taken out of content. I feel like uh, women think if you're being submissive, it's giving a man control. And then on the other hand, I think that some men think that a woman should just be submissive just because he's a man. He holds the title of a man. So I would love to hear what you guys' point of view on that is.
So I guess I'll start.
Okay.
I absolutely agree. It's taken out of context and content because people get a little hyped up on what they see on pornography and different movies and shows and how people are educated. So some messages get mixed up, and so and also we're taught, a certain way to be. For many years, women were taught how they should be and how they should act. So in our minds, it's like, no man, if you're a strong woman, no man's taking control of me and I'm going to do what I want and I'm not going to do this and do that. But so I have a certain point of what I think a good relationship is when it comes to submission and dominance. And I like a man who takes control respectfully. I look for the old fashioned man that was like my dad. At the same time, most people who see me speak and hear me in business would never think that I make for sure that if I have a man, I'm currently single, but I was married for 18 years. So when I have a man, I fix his plate. He goes out to work and he does his part. When it's time for dinner, I fix his plate and I bring it to him. When he's done, he could take it to the kitchen. Right. And so
Exactly.
so it's a trade-off in that respect. So there's different types of submission. When it comes to sexual submission, that's a person's preference. But again, since we're openly speaking, I'm a submissive woman. I don't want to take control. I'm a businesswoman. I'm out there every day, making sure no one takes my lunch or puts their hand in my wallet. So when I walk out the door, it's hands up and I'm ready to do business. But when I get home, I just want to be somebody's lady.
Yes. And I agree with you on that, Shirley. I can be submissive as long as I have the right man to be submissive to.
Absolutely.
What's your take on that, Charles? I think
He's
you have
on.
to unmute.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so my thoughts on that were, I guess the whole idea of wives being submissive was taken from the Bible in Ephesians. And without going deep into religion, the original text, the word that our English word submit comes from, actually more accurately translates into support. And there's this picture painted of a wife who's supporting her husband to be the best that he can be, as a husband in his role, to protect his family and support and the male conversely is tasked with supporting his wife, protecting his children, supporting the family. So it's not a one-way street. It's a situation in which both people are doing their best in their respective roles as mother, wife, husband, father, to push the family forward, and meet the family's goals, do better than the last generation. So, and for me personally, as I look for a wife, I'm not looking for someone to be submissive in the sense that, or I don't know, I just want everyone to be supportive. I don't want someone to be submissive in the sense that, well, Charles is the leader, and so no matter what Charles says, like, we're just going to do it. I'd like to have discussions so that we can actually take the best action and take the best step forward. So those are my thoughts right now as we open up. I think, like we said, it was taken out of context, and out of context, it is demeaning to women.
Absolutely. I mean, I can piggyback off of that, Charles. Some women, when they hear the word submission, they think control, so they reject it. But I feel like if you have the right partner, submission comes naturally. You just have to have the right partner. And I don't mean submission sexually, submission in the relationship, in the marriage, in the partnership. When you have a partner that leads you correctly, you wouldn't have a problem being submissive. Sometimes I feel like people have the wrong partner. And if you got a partner that's constantly taking you down, I wouldn't want to submit to that partner either. So I think, there's two ways when you're looking at that submission part. And I think that that's a lot of people's problem, or some women have an issue with being submissive in general.
I think when it comes to women being submissive, having a problem being submissive in general is because they're so used to being independent. And once you get used to that, it's just like, I'm not going to submit. I'm just going to do me.
I can agree. A lot of women probably do feel that way because, now if we go back in history, it was the husband's job to supply the home, right? But we're in new time now, so we got a lot of women bosses.
Yeah.
And sometimes being a boss, you like, I'm not taking down my crown. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. When, honey, that is your husband, or your mate. And then I'm gonna be honest, that's why some relationships don't work, because too big headed.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely. And from the same place where we get the idea of being submissive, we also see the concept of being evenly yoked. So if two people are evenly yoked, if there are two people evenly matched, a queen wouldn't have to take off her crown. If she's matched with a king, she would just fall into place. Like everything would fall into place if two people are evenly matched. So I definitely think that's an additional problem, a problem where we settle and we drop our standards. We have some bad relationships, and we're like, man, I'm never gonna find the correct match, the whatever you're looking for. I'm not gonna find a doctor. I'm not gonna find the entrepreneur. I'm not gonna find the person that has it all together. The person that can be my best friend. So I think that when we are with the right person, things fall into place, and we want to fall into our natural roles. Even for women that are quote unquote bosses, I believe that when they meet a man that comes up to their standards and he has his own stuff and he's a boss as well, I feel like things just work out. And I've experienced that. And the relationship didn't work out for other reasons, but I was in a relationship with a woman that is a boss in her own right, has a PhD, and that's not the only one. And in our relationship, like, we were able to fall into our roles just because it worked, and we had a respect for each other's bossness, or whatever their status, what they worked for, what they earned. That we had a mutual respect. So I think that can work out.
All right. And we just want to hear anybody else have an opinion, Hanny or Russ or Sam?
Okay, if I can jump in. For me, submission is trust, right? That's literally how I interpret it. And also I wanted to contribute, it was modeled for me growing up, having Somali background, what that dynamic was, and having a 2-parent household as well. So I seen how my dad has submitted to my mother and how my mother has submitted to my father. So it went both ways, and I seen that it was a healthy dynamic in that relationship. So just the fact that it was modeled at a young age for me kind of contributed to how I maneuver and interact with men and how I submit in my relationships and even friendships. And and work situations. So it's not always a romantic setting where we're submitting. It comes up in various entities throughout life. So.
Okay. How about you, Sam? Sam, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I had to switch over apps because I'm DMing some contacts. But yeah, I've been just I'm just listening in. I have a few things to share, but I think there's a cultural aspect, traditional aspect that is carried down through, and we're in the 21st century, like you said, where there's a lot of woman power, which is good. And so it kind of breaks the mold and causes some agitation, but it allows us to refine what submission actually is. And I have some thoughts on it that I would like to share. I share sooner now, but yeah, I think that we've got, America, for instance, where we've got a melting pot of so many different cultures and so many different traditions that it's with where the workforce is going, and even just family life in general. It tends to challenge the status quo and have us rethink about, what is it that we're cultivating in our relationships, and is it actually elevating, or is it or dishonoring, or pressing down.
Something happened. We lost them. I don't know what happened. While we're trying to get them back, Russ, did you have something that you would like to input?
Well, when it comes to submission, if that's what we're going with, I hear, the evenly yoked and all that jazz. That doesn't really work for me. So there's one steering wheel in the car. So regardless of wherever you're sitting at, if you're in the back or the side or the trunk or the hood, there's one person steering the vehicle, one person controlling the car. Now, as a partner, as someone that is with you, you can be a person, you can navigate, let me know where we're going, but someone has to take the lead. And if you're saying that you're evenly yoked, it's too much conflict that goes on with that. Somebody has to lead. So when it comes to submission, you submit all the time. We all do. We may not think of it that way, but you submit when you say, well, you're gonna drive at 70 miles an hour. Why not go 100 miles an hour? Because you're going to submit to the laws of the land. You may walk around with all your clothes on because if you take all your clothes off and walk outside, you're going to get arrested. So you're submitting to certain things. And in a relationship, to say, well, you know what? If I deem this person, quote unquote, worthy of whatever, all that, listen, if I'm with you, you're with me, and I say, well, this is what I'm bringing to the table. This is how I'm going to lead. All right. This. If that lady that is in my life feels that what she can bring to the table, and in that submission realm, it's not about telling you what to do. It's about, I got a clear cut plan. Let's execute this plan. Here's what's going on. Now you can come on board or not. If you go to your job or wherever you work at, there usually, unless you're an entrepreneur on your own thing, there's someone that is your boss. You answer to someone. So that means you're submitting to someone, but somehow that doesn't translate when you get to a relationship. I mean, that's in the first conversation that I have. If I sit down with you, I'm going to talk to you, and here's what we're going to do. This is what it's going to be. Now we can work that out however you want it to be. And if it is where it should be, okay, if I'm the leader, then I'm the leader. If that's the role you want to have, then fine. Hey, if you want to drive, you can drive. No problem. But the whole, we're going to do this thing together, it just doesn't work. There's no dual steering wheels in vehicles. And that's what I feel about submission.
Can I ask you why you feel that way?
Because I feel that it works that way. I feel that it just works better that way. If someone is in the lead or someone is in charge, it just works better that way.
So you don't think that in your relationship, you both can be submissive to one another?
No, I didn't say that. No, I said that if someone is in a leadership position, And when it comes to submission, if you go based on the dictionary and all that jazz, if you're submitting to someone and saying that I am submitting to you by saying that I'll be home at 6 o'clock or 6 p.m. I'm submitting to you. I mean, what, of course I'll submit. What those things are, submitting is sort of like saying vows. Everyone's vows are different. And if I give you a vow that may be different from whatever your vows were when you got married, or if you are married, it may vary. It can very easily vary. So to me, if I say, well, these are things that I am willing to submit, and these are things that I'm not, but there has to be a clear-cut leader, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So how I look at it is, if you're in a relationship, I feel that we both can be submissive to each other. Like, for instance, if he works one night and he might get off later than me and I get home earlier than him, I can have dinner prepared. I might have his bath ran, and vice versa. That's what I mean by submitting.
Yes, that's not submission to me.
What is it?
If I come home and you have dinner prepared, that's not submission. If you're cooking food, unless you're not eating at all and you're cooking food, I would assume for you as well. That isn't, I think the definition, the viewpoint of what submission is. It doesn't have to be when I walk in the door, you're standing there with a cold beer and I got your dinner. That's not submission to me. If you're submitting to something as far as like how the household operates, how things run, how things go moving forward, how are bills paid, how is the structure of the household. So yeah, if I'm cooking some food, I'm gonna cook for the whole house. I'm not just cooking for me. So if I make a sandwich and you're there or what have you not, or if I'm making a full-fledged, 5-course meal, if I'm making something, it is just courteous that you're here. So that's how that goes. If I go to the grocery store to buy those groceries, I'm not just buying for me, I'm buying for everyone in the house. That's a different category to me.
So are you saying that you feel that it should only be one person in charge in a relationship?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Russ?
Please do.
Why?
Why should there be one leader?
Yeah. I mean, no, I understand about there being one leader, but it sounds like, okay, so, and then submission does semi correlate with almost control. Why do you feel that way?
Well, I mean, when we use these words, there's a difference between control and submission, but we use them synonymously like it's the same thing, and it isn't.
They're not. They're not.
Right. So if there is a point of being a leader in a relationship, or being a leader in whatever it is that you do, and then if you come home, I believe Shirley said that when she said, I'm out here and I'm in charge all day long, and when I come home, I don't want to be in charge. I want to release that and whatever have you not. All right, then that's fine. If that is something that you have come together with your partner and you've agreed upon that, and that's the role that you take. Everyone has to fill a role. And if you don't, there's a butting of heads, and it just doesn't work. At least to me, it doesn't work.
And you know what? You're right. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to hear from you. You answered my question. Basically, there's an understanding between you and your partner. I think where a lot of relationships or marriages go wrong when it comes to submission is there's not that understanding. It's like, and that's where the control word come in. It's like it's my way and my way only. When Miss Londa had asked you, how come would it be okay for the other person to drive? And you said no, there's only one leader. So you answered my question. So thank you.
All right, we're gonna let Polka speak next. She has her hand up.
So, good afternoon. My thing is this. I'm agreeing with Russ to about 99.9%. And I'm going to take it back to what Charles, I believe, said. I think the meaning of the word submission is being misunderstood, and it's being misused on many, many levels. Because one word, as we know from the English dictionary, can have multiple meanings. And based on those meanings, whether you're using it as an adjective, a verb, it makes a difference. And we're even in the sentence that you use the term submission. So I think that it's being willy-nilly used as submission, meaning that you're giving up control or you're giving up power, or you're allowing someone else to be in charge of you and your entire destiny. But if we go back, like Charles said, to the definition of submission from the Bible, to submit to someone based on the Bible is to acknowledge that that person has some influence on you, not necessarily rule over you, but they have some influence on you, and you're working either in tandem, in partnership, or else you're recognizing the status of that person in the relationship. As Russ is saying, there's a status. When you go anywhere that there is a leadership model, there's always one CEO. They may be an assistant, but there can't be two, because we know that it have a tendency for two people to battle it out. So you have one that's in charge. The one person in charge doesn't necessarily know everything and can do everything, but there has to be a hierarchy. The king really is in charge, but the queen has the more maneuverability if you go into a chess game. So I think that's where the first breakdown is coming from the word submission. Then if you go on to think about what Charles was saying about, evenly yoked, the term evenly yoked is being misrepresented again, because being evenly yoked is not represented in the biblical sense from the physical model. So it's not about you and me having the same amount of money, or I own a house, you own a house, I have a car, you have a car. It's not from that context. It's evenly yoked in spirit, as in terms of your love for each other, or your spiritual connection, if you might. So you might find a Christian, for instance, who is in a relationship with a non-Christian, and the pastor will say, well, you're not evenly yoked, but then the Bible make room for that, and not trying to be biblical, and saying, hey, if you being a Christian can convert that non-Christian into being a Christian or falling in line with you, whether you're the woman or the man, then that makes you evenly yoked at that sense. So I think we're kind of misunderstanding, because it's very rare that you're going to find two people that are at the same level in a relationship, financially or emotionally or mentally or physically. It's just not, I'm not saying it's not possible, but the statistical data and that is very far few and in between for two people to be at the same exact level and continue to remain at the same level. Because you and I know we don't stay at the same emotional state every day. So it's going to be a flip-flop. Bringing it back to Russ, what I want to say is the man is the head of the house. So yes, if he's the driver, it's nothing wrong with him teaching the woman how to drive. But if he's the driver at that moment, and it's not a teaching moment where I'm going to teach her how to drive, then her job to support him is to maybe be the map reader, be the navigator, be the lookout person to see if he's going to miss his turn or not. And that's how you be submissive in a relationship. It's not necessarily that he's in control of you and you're giving up your independence, or according to a comment that was made previously, well, women are independent and they don't want to give that up. I dare to say there is no independence in any person, because the word dependent in the word independence still has an illusion of dependency. So no one is truly independent. It just means that you're interrelational and you're interactive with your dependency, i.e., if I'm depending on you, Yolanda, for say my daily bread, then I'm depending on you. But rather than sitting back and folding my two hands and letting you make the bread, bring it to me, stuff it down my mouth, and force me to eat and swallow it, I'm saying, you know what? She's making the bread for me to eat because I don't have it. So why don't I give her a helping hand? What can I do to facilitate her in helping me to be more independent in that I have food to eat? So, I just think it's just the real issue borders on the understanding of the word and how we use them. And I think that's where the breakdown in a lot of societal reactions are coming from, is that they're not really focusing on the true meaning of the word and going back to the root of what the word meant. And so Charles kind of wrapped that up really neatly when he gave his analogy, even though it's coming from a biblical context. But remember, 90% of English words are taken from old words, from other languages. And so when you translate them over into English, they come with varied meanings, and sometimes the actual meaning doesn't translate the way that it would in the language that we took it from. So I think that's my take on that.
Okay, well spoken. Anybody else have anything else to say on that?
Yeah, so what I was, because I know a lot of people aren't Christian or religious, what I was, and I'm well aware, and thank you for bringing that out, that evenly yoke refers to spiritual equivalents. I was trying to abstract that to secular terms in which, because if you are spiritually evenly yoked, then you espouse the same beliefs and at the same level, and you live your life out that way. And so the nearest equivalents I can see in a secular sense are two people with common beliefs, whether that's economic or otherwise, or social, and they live out their lives towards the same goal. And so I see that in people with similar educations, similar job aspirations. And so that's what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to muddle the water. It's difficult to take these concepts and go from like words that were originally written in Hebrew and Greek and then translated into English, and then abstract that into secular context. But anyhow, I don't. We're at the. I think that the example of a car is a little reductive, or even a company. So sure, there's going to be someone that's the head, but there's so many different leadership styles, and so many different there's just people have so many different gifts, and there's relationships in which the father is the stay-at-home father, but he's also the head, and the man could be the better cook, and then the man may be horrible at finances, but the wife may be an accountant. And so what does that look like for the man to earn and turn his money over in the household to be managed by the wife? And I think that Haney put out a really important concept out there, the idea of trust. Like, there is no submission without trust. And by virtue of I'm not certain what type of relationship we're talking about, but the only relationship that I know where submission actually takes place forever is marriage. And that's where those dynamics are formalized. And in order to be married, we must trust each other at a very deep level. And in becoming one and taking that leap and becoming married, we are in fact submitting, because we are releasing control, and we're being very vulnerable and open with everything, and we are denying all others. So like the idea of, I don't know, I do think it is a co-pilot thing. If we must have us do the CEO thing, it's like a CEO VP thing. It's like a king, queen, prime minister thing. But anyhow, I'll relinquish. But I think it's a little more complex than the analogies and metaphors that we use.
Okay, Polka has her hand up, but I wanted to say, what if it's two people in a relationship and they both work and they both make pretty much nice money? Then how does that work?
Well, that's what I was saying initially. When there's that mutual respect, because I feel like the wheels fall off with submission when, like, you have a dude sitting on the couch all day playing PlayStation,
Yeah.
and the woman is making money, and like she comes home and she can't submit to this dude because she doesn't respect him and she can't trust him to support the family or anything else. But in the situation that you just pointed out, and what I was trying to get to initially when I said that, and trying to abstract the idea of being evenly yoked to a secular or economic standpoint, was that when people are otherwise equivalent, or like they both make good money, or and everything is good, like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy needs, all the needs are met and you're up here at self-actualization, then people are, it's really easy to fall into roles. It's really easy for a woman to feel feminine and taken care of and feel like the man is masculine and like she can trust him and he's a protector. Like sociobiologically, that's what a woman wants. And when she feels that safety, that just takes care of itself. You don't, it's like a foregone conclusion. So that's what I was trying to say initially, but I wasn't articulating it well. But thank you for asking the follow up.
You're welcome. So I'm gonna let you go on and take it, Polka.
So with Charles, I was not alluding to the fact that he was incorrect in what he was saying. My breaking it down was really to say that mates being equally yoked or being equal in status is not the same thing as being equal in spirit. And so you cannot take what the Bible is saying as being equally yoked and bring it back into a physical sense, because there's a difference between spiritual and physical. And yes, we live in a physical world, but we are spiritual being taking a journey through. And a lot of times we have a tendency, because of our teaching, to negate the fact that we are spiritual and our entire being resonate with us being in the spiritual context, if you might. So when we begin to look at the physical, it's a little bit harder to deal with submission, as it is harder to deal with being evenly yoked or equally yoked, because there's no way to be equally yoked, even if you take the analogy of the car, for instance, or the corporation with the CEO. It's just an analogy. It is not saying your relationship is a CEO, but at the end of the day, it is a business. Your relationship is a business, which is the reason why we have a role, which is the reason why we have a status in the business. But you have to differentiate between the role, which, as Charles put it, and I think it was, I'm not sure that I remember her name correctly, but the young lady that spoke first, where she was saying, well, if I go home, you know, and my husband come home, I want to have the food ready. That's a role. That's your job within the relationship. It doesn't have anything to do really, as Charles said, or not Charles rather, but Russ, with submission. That's a job that you do within the relationship, and both people play that role. Whoever comes home first will cook. The submission has to do with who are you going to recognize as being the head of the household or being in charge of taking care of priorities within the home. And as the Bible say, not to be spiritual, the man is the head of the home. Now, if you as a woman choose a person that you're not equally yoked with, i.e. the man who sits on the couch and plays game all day long, you can't really blame him for the choice that you made. You have to blame you, because at the end of the day, you chose him. And many times he gives you signal to let you know he is not evenly yoked with you, whether in the physical or the spiritual. Many times he gives you signal to say, hey, I don't care about me submitting to you. I don't care if you wear the pants. And he gives you those signals. But we, as human beings, in many cases, males and females, think we can change the other party. And if we just show them our side of things, they will flip over and change who they are. But it's hard to change who you are. It's easy to change what you are, but not who you are. And if who you are is a lazy person and don't want to be a man of standards, then that's who you are. And it's not going to change no matter what the other party do. The other thing that I want to allude to that Charles was saying, marriage is a part of submission, but you cannot agree to a marriage until you agree to submission. And unfortunately, many people see marriage as the be all do all. So before they solidify the submission status and the role of that each person play, their wants and their needs and the hierarchy according to the chart that Charles is mentioning. They want to get married because of love or lust. And then they want to bring in the hierarchy chart after that. And they want to have the protection. But if you paid attention in the onset of the relationship, then you would understand that you're not going to get that protection that you're looking for from this individual, because they can't even give you that in the beginning of the relationship. So though your heart may be flip-flopping and fluttering like a butterfly, you might want to reconsider the long term and not the immediate. You know, the young lady that spoke first mentioned that she was married for 18 years. And if you ask her, she could tell you that's because when she went out there hard charging, she was in her independent status. She went out there and she was doing her job and she was doing her part. But when she came home, she dropped her arms and she said, hey, you are in charge now in the bedroom and in the home. I take off my warrior hat, and here in the house, you are the king of your castle. And it's not about, oh, you know, you're going to do what I tell you to do and how I tell you to do it. It was more, hey, babe, I'm the man and I'm supposed to do certain things as a man. And I want you to allow me to do it. So though you put the pants on to go out the door, when you come in, leave the pants at the door and become the woman that you're supposed to be. And she alluded to that, which is why she had a relationship for 18 years. And that's how long-term relationships are formed, because they're formed before you actually get married. And it's a part of the person's responsibility, both parties, to assess the long-term consequences of that relationship. So your relationship is a business and you have to treat it as such. What do you want the end results to be? What are your exit strategy? Is it going to be till death do we really part? Or is it going to be until you really make me mad and then I get a divorce?
Okay. So Shirley has her hand up, but I'm just going to jump in really quick, Shirley, and read a couple of comments from the viewers. So the first one is from Stacy. If both partners have respect for one another, then there shouldn't be an issue with being submissive, depending on the nature of the relationship. Then I have another comment from Frank. Females think that they don't have to submit until they're married. Doesn't work that way. So I don't think all females think that way, because I've been in relationships and I didn't have an issue with submission. It's just that you have to be giving me a reason to submit is how I look at it. I'll let you take it, Shirley.
So what I was going to say is, much like I'm going to use this analogy. Some people might not like it, but much like racism, people are afraid of Black people with hoodies, right? Because they're taught by the news and media that they're bad, right? So in relationships, we agree to be partners. We agree to put our trust in each other. We agree to compromise. So I think instead of submission, compromise is a more powerful and a more appropriate word, right? But when we become, and I can say this, when we become boss ladies, right? We're fighting society, we're fighting our jobs, we're fighting our coworkers. So we kind of have this warrior thing, right? And then we come home and like Charles used the analogy of someone not doing their part, laying on the couch, and we have no trust. So the real issue, and I think it was Hannah who said earlier about it's really about trust. So when I trust you that you've got my back, and you trust me that I've got yours, and vice versa, then it's not really a bumping of heads. It's just, you know, who's running with things tonight, or who likes this part, or, you know, oh, TV's yours tonight, babe. So it's really a compromise. But what happens is the word, to me, in my mind, submission becomes commercialized, right? And it beats in our head. So that's why we have to be careful of what we let in our minds, because subliminally we get all this submission stuff. And then of course sex sells. So when you hear submission, it's like he's running things, right? And for us who have been taking care of ourselves as independent women for so long, right? You ain't running nothing over here, right? That's the first thing. I got this under control. But at the same time, like I said before, I want that man who can respectfully check me, right? Because sometimes, you know, being the boss lady, we can take ourselves way too serious. I'm the first to admit that, right? So as long as he can respectfully check me, and he'll allow me to respectfully check him, and we're compromising on things, then there's no such thing to me as submission. Now, when they say the man runs the house, then that's my my ego kicking in. Like, again, he's not running nothing, right? But we have to watch the ego. It could be an ugly, if you ever watched the Flintstones back in the day, I know I'm aging myself. He used to have Gazoo on his shoulder. So that ego is right there on our shoulder talking to us, right? He ain't running nothing, but I love him, right? And we're going through all these little things. So we have to get ourselves in check and decide that it's really, don't let that stuff get commercialized in our relationships, because we were put here to give and receive love. And when we do that respectfully with trust, then there's no discussion about who's in charge. It's about who's in love.
You're on mute, Londa. We didn't
Londa,
hear
you're
you.
on mute. Yeah.
Sorry, I said it. I agree with you. It's pretty much a level of respect. Muted again. And so, yeah, I think, yeah, a lot of times it does get taken out of content, and we do let our ego take in, and, we as women can let our mouths get the best of us. And, especially when we've been doing it ourselves without any help. Yeah, we do kind of come in with that attitude, kind of chauvinist attitude, like you said, you ain't running nothing. So yeah, that's where the problem comes in at. And that's how the definition of being submissive gets incorrect. Anybody else?
Can I pose the question? Do you guys think that submission can be taught? Is it learned behavior, or is it something that we just inherently have?
But you mean like being raised or by your mate?
Right. So is it just something that like we have, it just takes the right energy for it to show itself? Or is it something that, through experience and things that we observe, we kind of learn? So I don't know. I guess I just kind of want to know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
Can I speak to that?
I would have to go with it would be the energy of the relationship, because if I went off of what I was taught, a man don't have no control. So if I went off of what I was taught, so I guess I would, for me, it would be more of the relationship that I am in that I get in, and the energy off of the relationship for me. Oh, Polka has a.
Yeah, what I would say to her is that it could be either environmental or societal. So it depends on where you're from, because there are countries that do teach submission to their children, and it's a part of their society. So you take like the Middle Eastern countries, for instance, they have that standards, they have that status. And so that's a societal thing, right? Part of their culture. And then it can be environmental based on, again, like you said, how you were raised. So in your brought up, say, for lack of a better word, right? You were taught that men don't have control of you, and that was what you saw in your environment, and that was what you learned. While someone else, for instance, that probably came from a two-parent home might feel like, oh, you know what, dad was always in control, so it's okay to submit to my husband. And then again, there might be someone that came from a one family home or one parent home, saying a mom and a daughter, but the mom is saying, hey, you still have to respect your husband when you get him. It's a certain way. So I would say the answer to that is bordered on the society that you come from, as well as the environment in which you were raised. And it could also be a third part, what you adopt within your environment and your culture. Because there are people that are still fighting the culture in the Middle East. And then there are people who probably learn one thing in their environment, but are opting to choose a different option, as in, you know what, I'm not going to be submissive because I learned that I should be, or I am going to be submissive even though I learned I shouldn't be. So, so I think it's a possibility of any one of the three or all three that could be combined to help that person to make the decision as to whether or not they would be submissive or not.
I mean, and Polka, I can piggyback. I agree with you with that. When you come over to America, like Honey said, it's a cultural thing. It is taught. and it is taught, from being young all the way up. And I think that has a lot to do with why Americans don't, and I won't say everyone, but majority of Americans don't women naturally submit to their partner, or opposite, because we have different type of relationships. Why the other don't submit, and it's not taught in the home. It's just not part of the culture. So I can agree with that.
Okay, so I don't know who had their hand up first. I don't know if it was Shirley.
It was Shirley. It was
Okay,
Shirley.
so I'll let you take it first, and then Charles, you take it.
So in reference to Hani's question, I'm going to go back to something Ms. Polka said earlier, and about, who we choose, right? So I'm going to always negate, dispel that myth about submission, because I think submission plays a role in one place, okay? So other than that, it's about compromise and love. So when she says, is it taught or learned? It's a natural instinct when you love or desire to be with that person, that you decide within yourself that I'm going to do what it takes, as long as I'm respected and treated properly, right? So it's not we don't need that adjective to submit, right? It's about love. So I'm going to do what it takes to make that relationship work. And I'll give a brief example. After my divorce, I was in a brief relationship, and he was the king of kings, straight from the motherland, right? From Nigeria. And so his upbringing and culture is very different from my American New York culture. You better bet that, right? And so it was very different. And he was probably the most perfect man I could probably think that I should have or could have been with. But at the state I was in, after a divorce and another failed relationship, and then, my selling off my business and starting a new career, nobody had time for that. I wasn't ready to step into that role. Now, in hindsight, I look back and say, girl, you should have just shut up, because that was the man for you, right? But at the same time, I just wasn't ready. But I think you naturally take on that role when it's the right person, and when it fits, when it fits with that circle and cork fit perfectly, then you just do it. It's not even a question. But if you're hesitating, go with your instinct and your gut, right? If it stinks, it stinks. If it smells like poop, it's shit. So it doesn't work. And we have to go within, because we tend to negate our instinct and intuition. And that is the strongest thing that has been given to us. The most powerful thing that we can do is go with our instinct. Thank you.
Charles, I'll let you take it, and then I'm going to read a few comments from the audience.
Sounds good. Yeah. So to Hani's question, I agree with all that was said. I think there are many paths. I don't think it's one or the other. I think you can get there. You can get there culturally. You can get there. I think the best way to get there is the way Shirley described, with that love and respect, and trust, because that's the purest, truest form. It's the most unadulterated form. But when if it's cultural, you can just be out of obligation, and then you still have your own thoughts to yourself, but you are physically submitting. And I think there's also learned behavior aside from culture. If you witness it in the house, no matter what culture you're in, if you witness the dynamics of your relationship, we actually learn more passively than we do actively. Like when someone's teaching you something, we learn by learned behavior. We see things, we learn by how we're treated. 70% of communication is nonverbal. It has to do with how things are said, body language, posturing. So I think that of all the ways, like I said, the way Shirley outlined is the truest, but there are many ways that you can get there. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. Back to you, Londa.
Okay, thank you for that. So Belinda asked, are you talking about being submissive to just a woman? Belinda, can you elaborate on what you're asking and who that question is towards? And then Frank says, nowadays females just don't know how to let a king lead. It's just old fashioned, but things is real. kings still go by the old fashioned mindset. That's why most of us kings are still single and will be single. um,
Can I speak to that?
You said what, Shirley?
Can I speak to Mr. King?
Yeah, because yeah, I'll let you take it.
So the problem with the mindset of that is, right, it comes in with no respect right away. I'm the man, right? That's not how it works, right?
Isn't that what I said earlier? That some men think that
yeah, you got to earn it. You got to earn it because you say you're the man.
To get that title.
Yeah, because you say you the man, or because you was given the lower extremities, right? That doesn't make you a man. That doesn't make you the king. What makes you the king is handling your business with respect and loving kindness. And so if someone gives you that, then you have to be just either an illness or you have something that's be wrong with you to not give it back. It's human nature. That's what we're put here for. We're put here to use or take advantage or run things, right? That is the subliminal crap we let get in our head.
I think Frank is trying to give us a run for our money, because his next comment, it says, it can't be earned. I know what makes a man a king.
We got some kings in here. Can a king answer that, please?
Yeah. Can you, one of you guys take that for me? Can you guys?
I'm a king 100%. So if you need somebody to step up to the plate, then by all means.
But his comment is that basically what he is saying is that he said nowadays females just don't know how to let a king be a king, basically. And this is why kings are single. Like I can
understand his point of view, and I understand what he's saying. And so, not getting all technical and all that jazz like that, but I don't really have time for that. I'll just dismiss you and move on to somebody else. So when it comes down to if you're going to deal with something like that, if I bring you into my world, you come into my life, and I'm going to build something with you, there's a certain criteria that I already have. So if we're communicating and we're talking back and forth and all that stuff, and then there's a constant battle. Listen, we're not two rams on the side of a mountain. I'm not trying to be bucking heads with you every other day. I'm not doing that. So if that's the type of flavor that she happens to be on, then you need to just go on about your business. But what happens is a lot of times we get in these relationships and you would rather be with someone than be alone. I'd rather be with this person and deal with what they got to go because I don't want to be alone. So then what goes into it's called, well, I'm going to settle for this person. And when you settle for somebody, that person is not the person you want to be with. You're settling for that person. So whatever BS that they got going on, either you're a man dealing with a woman dealing with a man. If you're a woman and you say, well, this man is sitting at home playing video games, you know what? If I'm in my house and I'm paying for it and I'm playing video games, then that's what it's just going to be. So if you don't like it, that's your problem, and that's just how it is. So it all depends upon the respect that you demand. Now, if you demand respect, whether I say it or not, hey, this is what I'm bringing to the table already. Now, if there's some sort of a battle back and forth, if I'm paying for the house and all this, that, and the third, and I come in the house, you don't cook no food at all, the house is a mess. Well, what's up with that? That's a break in our communication there.
Hey, how many kids are you having?
18.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody said something? Anyway, just trying to overpower that and move on of what I'm saying to kind of respond and tap into what the brother was saying. If you have somebody in your life and you're dealing with that, man, and if kings are single, if I am single, I'm single for a reason, because if I don't have to tolerate any of that. So we're all casting people in our movie of life. Okay. And if on your cast list, I got a, beautiful woman with a voluptuous body and blah, blah, blah. If that's the type of woman that I'm searching for or that I want, if you don't fit that description, I'm not even looking in your direction. You see what I'm saying? There's not much compromise when it comes to the people I allow into my life. If you allow somebody into your life to screw it up, that's on you. That's your problem. So I'm not going to allow you to offset my flow. Now there is compromise. And their compromise comes in communication. And the best communication you have with your partner, that's what leads you forward. If you have bad communication and you can't really get things forward, you can't articulate how you feel and all that stuff, you already got some problems. Because if I'm gonna hold something in, here's a big problem and thing that I do not like. If I ask you what's going on, if I say, well, what's wrong? If you tell me nothing, then you know what it is? It's nothing. And I've moved on mentally. So I'm not gonna look, well, her body language reads something is wrong. No, I've already expressed and communicated to you. Is there something going on? You seem like, no, nothing. All right. Don't get more upset and angry at me because I'm not taking the time to try to figure out the maze and the puzzle. We're adults. We don't have time for all of that. And I think sometimes when you're in those types of relationships and you're dealing with that type of stuff, that's crazy. Again, it's not all women. I'm just saying because that is the opposite section I deal with. There are some things that we are on as well, and we do some tripping stuff as well. But in your life, if you're casting a mate in your life, cast for who you want, not who you settle for.
All right. So I have another comment. This one's from Stacy. When it comes to letting a man lead, to me that means, especially if we're living together as husband and wife, my life, our life, the family's life is in his hands. He has to lead in a direction that's going to lead the family in a way that's going to benefit the household. You can't lead and lead the family into a ditch. Miss Belinda said that her question was directed towards you, Shirley, when she asked, are you talking about being submissive just towards women? I don't know.
I'm not sure I understand because I'm straight. So I'm only submissive to men and only in one place.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Miss Linda? And then I don't know who had their hand up first, Charles or Polka. Well, which one of you want to take it? Charles? Okay.
I wasn't muted. Just okay. So, I believe that if you are truly a king, as we're labeling it, if you're like actually a man and like you have things worked out, like you're in a position to take over, I think you're naturally going to attract your queen. Like women are going to be attracted to that masculine energy, and they will be looking to submit to you. They will be looking to hitch themselves to your cart. And like you don't have to do the whole casting call, and you can have an idea of who you want to be with, what that person looks like, their personality and things, but you will have your pick if you are actually that masculine man. And you're not going to have to talk about it. You're not going to have to say I'm a king. There will be no discussion. It will be just a woman submitting because she's identified that masculine energy. She's wanting you to take control. So there won't be a rift. The other things about I guess the interrelational things, and I asked you what's up, like that's a little hard for me. If going back to the love and the respect and the trust, if you know that your woman is hurt, like you don't have to be that hard masculine energy all the time. There's also the soft side, and you can, like, if you actually love her now, if you truly love her and care about her, you will stoop down and put in the time to figure things out and talk things.
That's not what I mean, Charles. I'm not trying to cut you off, brother, but I think what is being conveyed over there, my message may not be hitting you in this right particular manner. What I'm saying is that on the first thing, if I'm a king, if you really want to get down to it, if I'm a king, I gotta compromise at all. That's what a king says, and that's it. There is no other word. It's the king. So we can put that word, on the shelf for a moment. But when you before we get to a relationship, that's what I'm talking about. You casting a person before we get to the movie set, before we even get there. You see what I'm saying? I already know the type of person that you are before we even get to that point. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to your interaction and your communicating with your partner, that goes in communication. You see what I'm saying? If I'm talking to someone and if I'm talking to that lady and we're communicating on a and vibing on that level, then you have to communicate. If you sit up there and don't say anything, people aren't mind readers. And because you should be able to understand what nah, that's not how it works, man. You have to communicate verbally. You have to say there, and there are some body language and cues like that, and that's true. But when it comes to you saying how you feel, a person can't read your mind. You have to be able to say, this is what I'm feeling. This is where I'm at. And when you two can have that conversation, that's why things work well. If you look at any relationship, if you're single right now, there's a reason that we're all, well, not, if you're single or you're with somebody, you're not happy, there's a reason for that. And if you dive down to the core of why that is, a lot of it is communication, because you don't say something, she doesn't say something, you don't say something, we don't say something. And whenever you do communicate, you're yelling back and forth to one another. You're arguing. So that means I'm not really listening to you. I'm just waiting to get my point across. And all the things that have built up to a certain point, well, let me tell you about something. And you know what I mean? Whereas if I'm relaxed, and we just sitting down watching TV and just tell me about your feelings. I'm not saying be hardcore and flipping couches over, nothing like that. But I feel that at the base of any relationship, whether you talking to people at work, talking to your lady at home, talking to your homeboys at the bar, you have to be able to articulate and communicate how you feel, because otherwise people can get the wrong feeling or get the wrong vibe off of feelings. I may have a scowl on my face, not because of you, because I'm thinking about something that happened 2 days ago at work. They ain't got nothing to do with you. Oh, she must be in a bad mood. No, you're reading it wrong. But had you just asked me, I would have told you, oh, you know what? Larry at the job was tripping X, Y, and Z. That's what I meant when I said that, Charles.
All right, cool. Thanks for explaining. So I agree that you should have your vision of whoever you want to be with. But I was additionally saying that when you show up as a certain type of man, like I said, you're going to attract women who are ready to submit to that masculine energy. And I was furthermore addressing what you specifically said about if I ask you and you say that like there's no problem, and you still know it's a problem because you're reading her body language. You can step in and either give her space and come back around, or wait for her to come back to you, or address it at a different time. But for me, I would put in energy to get to the bottom of it at some point, depending on our relationship dynamics. That's all I was saying. And I'll relinquish to Polka.
Polka, you got it.
Well, my take on that is I would agree with what Russ is saying, to the point that, I'm not going to invest a lot of energy, no matter how I feel about you and how much I love you. If I come to you as a grown adult and I'm asking you if something is wrong and you're telling me there's nothing wrong, then my job is to just walk away and leave it alone. And when you feel like you're ready to have that discussion with me, then you do so. I don't think I need to prod and push you, even though your body language may still say something is wrong. That's not my job. Unless, of course, you're hurt or injured or something like that, then I could understand. If it's something outside of your normal behavior, maybe the first 1 or 2 times that you've done that, then I may, allude to pushing you. But beyond that, I'm not going to do it if it's a normal pattern, because then it's becoming a thing that you want me to push you, or it's something going on with you, but you want me to be the one to play, psychologist or psychiatrist with you. And that's not my job. We're in a relationship together. If you have an issue, part of your responsibility is to literally sit down and have that conversation with me, not for me to come and push and beg you to speak. On the other hand, with what Charles is saying, I get it. Yeah, if you are the king, quote unquote king, or a man, there are a lot of women that are willing to submit to you. But on the other hand, you still have to vet them, as Russ is saying, because you don't know who are playing game. There are a lot of women that says they want a strong man, but then they get one and that's not who they want. Likewise, there are a lot of men who said they want a strong, independent woman, and then they get one and that's not really who they want. They just want someone that is going to tolerate their bull, and that's all it is. And so they feel like if I get him, I can flip him to the softer person that I want him to be, or if I get her, I can get her to be the softer person I want her to be, and so it doesn't work.
There's a funny,
Oh, you
just real quick. There's a funny saying that I heard that women get men that they hope that they can change, and men go into relationships getting a woman hoping that she'll never change. So I think that's a interesting dynamic between men and women. But back to you, Londa.
Okay, so I have a few more comments from the audience. Stacy, I don't want a man to be domineering and I don't mind compromising, but I refuse to compromise my belief just for the sake of the relationship. Even as the head of the household, there still has to be respect. The leader, the man he has to live up to that title of being the head. I'm not sure. I think when you were talking, Charles, I think Frank was saying no to I guess he was not agreeing with you. And then Belinda responded and said, I'm talking about a woman just being submissive just towards a man. If you work together, it's a king and queen that works together. If you don't have trust, you don't have nothing.
That's still Frank? That was Frank?
No, those last two comments were from Belinda. The one where he was saying LOL, no, I think he was disagreeing with you.
Okay. Good luck to you, Frank. that's all I have to say. Like, if you're a king, you don't have to say it. Like, it's just true. Like Russ was saying, you should have your idea of who you want to be with, what your queen looks like, whatever those attributes are. Yeah, absolutely cast for it. But if you show up as a king, women will show up. Sure, you got to vet them, like Poca was saying. Of course, that goes without saying. But life is the best teacher. That's all I have to say. And we're all going to learn. We're all going to learn.
And I'm sorry to jump in, but I would agree with you and that, Charles, in the sense that if you think about it, it's a business. It is a business. So when you're going into a relationship, you have to have everything that you're looking for that's going to make up that business and make that business successful. And if you don't come prepared to have a successful business, i.e. your relationship, then what is going to happen is you're going to have a fail ship. And most people don't come prepared. Okay, I want my guy to be strong. I want him to have a lot of muscles. I want his belly to be a six-pack. I want him to have a little beard. He should have a great job, make a lot of money. But there's a lot of key factors that they leave out. And when you leave out anything, when you're setting up a business, it could cause your business to fail. Then they go into the advertising mode to find the product that they want to sell, i.e. the man that they're looking for or the woman that they're looking for, but they leave out some of the key values, i.e. what is my mission? What are my expectations? What is my exit plan for that relationship once I get into it? And of course, what am I bringing into the business on my own to sustain it? Or do I need to find some bankers to invest in it, i.e. my family and friends? So it is a business. And if we treat it as such, we wouldn't have to worry so much about the submission factor, because it would automatically fall in line and you would find the person who you're equally yoked to, because all your bases are covered. Have those conversations, and we don't. Many people get into a relationship and they don't have a conversation at all. The only conversation they have is the feeling of the heart. I'm in love. Oh, he looks good. Oh, she looks fine. Oh, and then there's a discussion in the bedroom, which most time is not really a discussion as we would have it. It's a whole nother level. And then we're talking marriage, and here comes the failure. So we have to treat it like a business. I'm not saying walk around with a business plan, but you have to have it in your head. You don't demand respect. Respect is given. And if you show up already in the position of the king, as you say, Charles, respect is going to come automatically. You won't have to ask anyone for it, and the submission will come right along with it.
All right, I'll let you take it. Shirley, you have your hand up.
So I just wanted to piggyback a little bit of what Russ, Poca, and Charles said. So I'm single 7 years now by choice, right? Divorce 10, single 7 by choice. And I choose that because I will not compromise. I know my worth. I know what I want. I'm a woman with a mission, purpose, and vision for everything in my life. Sometimes I fall off track because life gets in the way, but I jump right back on it, right? So I live in West Bubble Nowhere in New York in the countryside. So I don't get to see a lot of people that I'm looking to date or, or I don't like to say my caliber, but who I'm looking for, right? So I do go on dating sites and I do mingle and do things. And through COVID, you got nothing but dating sites right now. So I immediately read their profiles, right? For example, so that's the vetting part. I read their profiles. Now, of course, you can pretend to be anybody you want to be on the internet, right? But I read that and then I go into a conversation if I'm interested with them. If we both swipe right, then we're going to talk. My first question to them, even though their question might be what size boobs you have, do you do this, do you do that? My first question is, what are you truly looking for? There is no right or wrong answer, because they might say LTR, long-term relationship, to get you hooked, right? Because the average woman would dream about having that at this point in our lives. But they say that, but that's not what comes out of their mouths or comes out of their text, right? So then they say, well, I put up there, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, but I want to know the real rules of engagement, because communication is key. So some people might say, oh my gosh, she talks too much, she says too much, but you could say many things about me, but you should never say that you misunderstood the words that came out of Shirley's mouth, because I'm going to be straightforward and direct, right? And so if we learn the gift, the beauty of communication and speaking, like Russ said, I'm not going to ask you. I get that, right? I get that because I have 9 brothers and I've employed over 150 men. So I speak Manglish, okay, as well as being a woman, I speak Manglish. So I get it, because communication wasn't taught on every level. So if there's somebody you see, though, that you like and you want to put that effort in, like Charles said, put that effort in. You don't have to baby them. Now, we grown folks, you don't have to baby them, but not everybody got to see a loving relationship, beautiful communication, right? Our experiences make us who we are. So if we've seen that junk, that's what we know. But if you see something in me that you like and you say, man, I want to get to know her, I think she's my type, then put that energy and effort in. Now, I'm not saying jump over the bridges and through the hoops, but make those steps, because you could lose a jewel or a gem if you don't, right? So, but in the beginning, that vetting is real serious. Ask those. I have a list of like 50 questions. If, like some men, they're like, why are you asking so many questions? You act like I'm applying. Well, Miss Poker just told me it's a job, baby. So apply for that job. Because I know if I'm invested in you, I'm going to go to work too. Right? So if we're real, we got to be real. But so I started this to say, Russ said, ask some people who are single. I'm single, but I'm single by choice. I did compromise in the beginning, not to say anything ill of him. 18 years, we put some work in and we did some beautiful things and raised some beautiful families and children and businesses. But we reached a point where we no longer needed to compromise and be dissatisfied or unhappy. We parted as beautiful friends, and he lives less than 10 miles away from me, and blah, blah, blah. We have a great friendship, and that's how it should be, right? It's not always easy, but that's how it should be. But at this point, I refuse to compromise. So I am single and I am looking, but I am looking for the man whose actions speak louder than words. So don't tell me you're a king, show me you're a king. That's it.
You go, Shirley. You go. You know what? I'm over here applauding you so much. I'm just clapping on my other side of the fence, literally, because you said a mouthful and you wrapped it up in a nutshell. If you want to go back to the word submission, everything you just said could be taken away from that. It's about you knowing your worth, knowing your value, coming prepared to have those tough conversations, ask those tough questions. And if they don't want to answer or they refuse to answer, then they don't fit your criteria, even if they do, because if they're not going to answer up front, they're not going to answer when you get in the relationship, and they're darn sure not going to answer when you get married, because we know marriage certificate acts as the weapon, and they use it. Men and women, they both use it. And so, yes, you just wrap up the whole conversation in a nutshell. Thank you so much, Shirley, for that.
Well, thank you, Ms. Polka. I was wondering what you did for a living, because every time you spoke, I was like taking notes and applauding over here too, because I so enjoyed you, for sure. But it's just communication is key. And we saw our parents, for the most, a lot of our parents, you know, they came at a different time, 60s, 70s, where they weren't permitted to do it. They didn't have time to do all that communication, right? And there was lots of breakdowns. So each generation should kick it up a notch and lift it up and lift it up and teach our children. My daughter, she did not play well with others when she was younger. And I adopted some children and did some things, but I only birthed one daughter. But she saw that I put that plate on the table for that man every night when I was married. And I just never thought that any man could put her in any kind of containment. But I'll say this, she's and not because she's my daughter, because if she was a wreck, I'd tell you. But she serves her husband because he takes care of them. He works. He, you know, took on 2 jobs and said, you can stay home and take care of the children, and I'm going to be the king. And that's what he did. So there was no question about the respect or honor she should have for him, or the trust that she should have that this man is going to do what he did, because he didn't talk about it. He's a man of few words. And if he heard this, he'd probably pass out that I'm saying this about him. But, you know, but he's a man of few words, but he took the actions and steps. And that's what it takes to get that honor. It's just given to you. It don't need to be talked about.
All right, I have another comment from the audience. Stacy says, also, I think that we as women, we do need to learn how to talk to our men and not talk to them as if they're children. Otherwise, what's the point of being together? Men want to feel respected and women want to be loved. So it has to go both ways. No man wants to be talked down to, and neither does the woman. The way we talk to each other is also another form of being submissive. Hello, Miss Linda.
Hi. But I do have comments on that.
Okay.
Because I've been with my husband over 50 years, since I was 10 years old. But I was never submissive to him. He was never submissive to me. We were submissive together. He did for me, I did for him. We worked together. I paid the bills, he paid the bills. He cooked, I cooked. He cleaned, I cleaned. So it was nothing like he do this and I do this. Once we fight, we never fought over money. Once you start fighting over money, the relationship is over with, period.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, and you're right. Once you start fighting over money, because money can also be a big issue in a relationship, and when it comes to being submissive, because if one person feels like they're the big breadwinner, guess what? They feel like they're the person in control. And it can be taken out of content.
And you are definitely right, because some years I made more than him. He made more than me, but we made our money work. We paid our bills together, but we never fought over, this is mine, this is his, because we did it together. So I don't understand about the submissive part, because I would never be submissive of any relationship or what she say, a business. It's no business to me. Ain't no business. Because I was in love unconditionally, like my husband was unconditionally in love with me.
Polka, you want to elaborate on the business part of that a little bit more? So, because I think she might be misunderstanding exactly what you were saying.
And I get what Miss Linda is saying, and I was smiling. I was smiling at what she said, because when you're operating from a place of love, you don't really look at it as business, but love is in itself allows you to treat the relationship in a way that it is business. Because when a person who sets up a business that is very successful usually is the person that has a passion for that business. And so they put all their love into the business, and they put every energy into it to make it work, which is the reason why I use the term it's a business. When you're in love, you're going to give it everything you have. You're going to do everything necessary to make it work. And that's what they did. They never fought over money. She paid the bills. He paid the bills. She washed the dishes. He washed the dishes. They didn't have to make a compromise. They had a role and they did it together because they loved each other so much that they wanted it to work. If it was a day that he couldn't do something, she would step in and do whatever it was that was necessary to make it work because of the love, which is the reason why I say it's a business, because the 90% of the business that makes it are the people who do something from their passion, from the love of what they're doing. And that's why they said, if you want a job, go get a job. But if you want a passion, if you want a business, use your passion, because your passion is what drives you. So yeah, she has a point. It's about love, but love allows you to make those hard choices and do those things that you would not normally do to make the relationship work, because you love so much that you're willing to overlook certain idiosyncrasies and issues that normally would not be overlooked if you were not in love.
All right. Yeah, for me, money in a relationship is a big deal. I work, so I expect the man to work and bring money into the home. But for some, money is an issue in a relationship, and that was a comment from the audience. Do you have anything to say on that?
And money is a real issue. So 70% of marriages fail. It's funny that we're using this business metaphor because 75% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years. But 70% of relationships that fail, they failed for financial reasons. Whatever issues with the money, whether there was not enough and I think that the other issue with that is that when we are in relationships where we did not vet the person, we're not with the person that we should be with, and there are those dynamics where we don't respect the other person because of finances or their contributions, then sometimes we introduce this anomaly of financial abuse. And because like this person is staying at home and taking care of the children, then like, I don't know, like the woman is forced to like stick with whatever she has. Like he may buy new clothes, he may not allow her to do some things that she wants to do, go out with her friends. And on the flip side, same difference. And it doesn't always have to be where the people are just deadbeats. Things are introduced. So we go into relationships, we go into marriages, and even though our wedding vows say for better or for worse, till death do us part, things happen. People get injured, people get sick, and where there was 2 incomes, there is now 1. That changes relationship dynamics. It changes the way that it can. I know you're shaking it. It can, and it often does. And I know that if there's love, and if we uphold our vows, then it shouldn't. But a lot of times it does change the dynamics. So economics of relationships is often a huge factor. That's just the reality.
I know, but I understand. But if you got my back, if I can't work anymore, you got my back. If you can't work anymore, I got you. I'm gonna pay everything. If I can't work, you're gonna pay everything. And for the children, I never had a babysitter because when I worked, my husband changed his shift to take care of the kids. When the shift changed, I changed my shift to take care of the kids. So we never had a babysitter. So, because it was never really a money issue, because we took care. If he didn't have it, I got it. I would pay all the bills if I have it. If I couldn't work, he all the bills if I can't work. So it was never, so that's what I'm saying. It's tied over money, your relationship is completely over, period. We work together, we cook, clean, we worked on cars together, we did construction together, we did everything together. I was love. I feel a business, a business relationship. I said it was unconditionally love. So I want to
Exactly.
help. He want to help. So it didn't matter.
Okay, Charm has a comment from the audience, and then Shirley, I'll let you take it.
Okay,
Then
so
Russ next. Sorry.
no, you're okay. And Miss Linda, I just want to tell you, you have what we would call a perfect marriage. And unfortunately, in this life, that we live, it's not always like that. And I know a lot of people would hope and wish that they would meet a partner is equal as your partner. And, I can still hear submission in yours, but you guys submitted to one another, which made it all the more beautiful. You know what I mean? It sounds like you guys were equally. You know what I mean? There wasn't, if it was lack on your end, you said he picked it up. If it was lack on his end, you picked it up. To me, and just my opinion, because everyone on here, these are our opinions. I feel like you had the perfect marriage, honestly. But I'm gonna quickly just read a comment from the audience. So the audience said, and anyone can answer this, how you're gonna be submissive to someone you're not married to.
You can't.
What do you mean?
Because you can't be submissive to somebody you're not married to if that partner is not, the partner is here no longer. My husband is no longer here.
No,
I can be submissive to that person.
I think the question is basically they're saying that if I'm understanding correctly, I think they're asking if you're just in a relationship with somebody, how can you be submissive? But I guess they feel like you only can be submissive if you're married, which I disagree with.
I do too.
All right, so Shirley, you have it next.
I've spoken a great deal. If Russ wanted to go, then I would go after him. Russ, you want to go?
Well, I mean, I can, and with all due respect to Miss Linda, you know what I mean? Like, as you focus on money, if that's the focus, not to go and filter through your entire relationship. I don't believe there's anything that's perfect. That's just how I feel. You know what I mean? Perfect is a really strong word to use, but you have in that, if your relationship, if that worked for you, and if you and your husband, if that worked for you too, and if he didn't have it, y'all have it, then that's fine. You know what I mean? But if you came in and said, you know what, Lynn, I want you to bark like a dog today. If you had a problem with that and said, well, I ain't doing it. You see what I'm saying? Like, everybody has a different type of lane that they're in. So if we're talking about just being submissive to somebody, regardless of whoever it is in your life, we do this all the time. We don't label it as submission. We don't label it as such. But if you're able to, if there's anyone that you come in contact with that says something to you that you say, then that means you're not being submissive for that individual or what they believe in. That goes along the lines of religion, money. I mean, what Poco was saying about two businesses, or you being a business, when you operate, you run a business, your business plan, and you're this and you're that, all these things come together. But when you focus on what is love, well, when you focus on love and emotion is something can blind you a lot of times. You don't see certain things that even maybe people outside the relationship can see, like, dang, you with that dog or whatever have you not. If you're looking at something and saying, you know what, I love this woman, but she ain't got no job. She don't do nothing. She don't even wash her face. But I love her though. So should love supersede and override the fact that you don't do nothing with your life? Or should that just be okay? Whatever your criteria happens to be. And what I was saying earlier to Charles, and just anybody in general, was I have a strict list. If in order for you to even be on the team, for me to even to consider you, you have to tick off of some certain things in this piece of paper here. And it's the same as anybody doing a job application. It's the same. You have to have something that for you have those things. Now, then you said that your husband was that, and that's great. He did those things for you. That's amazing. To me, if there's anything that's missing off of that list, you don't make the team. I'm not even looking at you. That's for me. And I can't sit up here and say, well, if you have 3 out of 5, well, if you have 3 out of 5, then you're not somebody that I want to be in my life. Because I know that's going to end up being a problem down the lane. If money is a problem, if that's a problem for you, then that's a problem. If it ain't a problem for me, but if that's something that you don't really like or care for or whatever, there's a certain way that you deal with a person that's in your life before you become a person in my life. Now, if I'm in a relationship with you, all that is, I date with a purpose. So if I'm dating you for a purpose, for a reason to eventually be married and what have you not, you ain't gonna start submitting till we get married. Well, then that's backwards. You know what I mean? Come on now. That's silly. So if we get to a point where, all right, we gotta wait till we get married, and then all of a sudden you gonna start then? Probably not. Probably not. The person that you're with, you're dating, that's the reason why I want to marry you. You can't say, oh, well, when we get married, I'm gonna do all this other stuff. But once we get there, then I'm gonna just say, all right, well, I'll see you later. And that's kind of how I see that. Whereas everybody has their individual relationships, their experiences, what your criteria happens to be, what you are willing to bring into your life. I'm not selling it for nobody. So whatever it is that you don't like, and I believe Shirley said that, you're single for 7 years for a reason, for a purpose. I'm sure there's men that will like to date you and you're like, no, because you don't have what it is that I need. So therefore you don't come into my life. You just keep pushing people away. And I understand that. And I respect that. Why be with somebody and waste your time and waste their time if you know this person isn't what you want? You know that. And you still get involved with this person. And then all of a sudden now you 2 years, 3 years into a relationship or whatever it is, then you get married. Now you do 3 years, go to 10 years. Now you didn't wasted 20 years of your life being with somebody that you knew at the beginning that wasn't the person. But you're going to say, well, but we in love though. But we in love. All right. Well, that love is going to have you sucking those years out of your life. You can't get years back. And once them years are gone and you go, you know what, had I just listened to my mama or had I just listened to someone, not that you do listen to other people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying sometimes there are people that come into your life that aren't the right people. Just because they're in your life and they look good or whatever it is, sometimes those people aren't the right people. And that vetting system should be a little more, in depth. You know what I mean? So in closing with that is, if I'm having surgery, I'm going to be a little more vetted into that doctor that's cutting me open. Rather than, it don't matter to me, it can be anybody. I don't care. He got a lab coat on. That's good enough for me. Nah, I need to know, do you have the qualifications in order to do the surgery that I need you to do? And I'll say that just now.
I know, but God is first in my life. It don't care about no man or what, but God is first in my life. That's what brought me all the way to this. And my God is first, period. It don't care about nothing else. God. I pray. I repent. I do everything, but God is first.
I got that. But what that God being first in your relationship, we talking about two different things here. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. God first. My husband and children are next. But God is always going to be first. Because that's what put me through all my life is God. In Jesus' name.
I hear you, and I'm not trying to argue with you on this platform. I'm not, and I have all respect for you, Linda. I really do. But you know what? We can hang that on, we can hang anything on the God nail. So then if your husband's coming home and he's not doing you right, and you say, well, but God's gonna help. Hey, let me just say that I do believe in God, all that. But I'm saying that there comes a time when you have to take some responsibility for your actions and what you do. And if who you're bringing into your life is not the person you should be bringing into your life, that really, they got nothing to do with God. You're putting this person into your life. If you've already prayed and all of that, and you bring this person into your life, that's amazing. That's great. That's what you want.
But when I say remove, God removed this person because he's not right, is removed from my.
I got you.
And I have, when my husband went to heaven, I had met a couple people, and I talked to God in Jesus' name, remove them if they're not right for me. Guess what? They were removed. No questions asked.
All right. All right. So Shirley, did you want to take it? And then Polka has her hand up.
Sure. So I wanted to respond to the money part. That's when I raised my hand. So money is one of the like Charles said, 75% is $0.75, right? 3/4 of a whole. So money is a really big issue. And again, when you're doing the vetting and you're looking, right? You need to be able to talk about money. I put in my bios and things, sapiosexual. So if you don't know what that is, and you don't have the effort to look it up, that's your first ex. Bye, Felicia. It was nice knowing you, right? So I want someone who's going to put the effort in to understand me and what I'm looking for, and I'm going to do the same for him, right? So the money is right after we get to the rules of engagement and what I'm into and what I'm not into. Then next is the money. How do where would you want to live? If I could, my favorite question is if I waved a magic wand and money was no object, what would you want to do? Drive, ride, do everything. I'm a life coach. So I ask those questions. So I put it in my relationships too. Right. And so I want to know that, because if you say a Maserati or a Corvette or a Lamborghini, you're kind of sort of not my guy. I'm a Ford girl, right? You give me my pickup truck. I'm a country girl at heart. So all of that flashy stuff, it might be good for you, and that's fine, not judging you. It's just not what I want, because I want that money to grow my person. I want that money to have experiences in cultures and people, and I want to travel, and I want to learn what foods people eat in another country and why people pray the way that they do and have the faith and beliefs that they do. And if you put your money on those things, then we can't do that. So you are not the person for me. So money is really big. And again, I'm not going to talk bad about my ex, but I will say that was probably after 18 years of struggling to build a very successful business that I owned for 24 years, right? When things started to get hard after the crash of the economy, that's when you had to hunker down and not waste money. And we were what people would consider successful, right? Then that's when we needed to make for sure we didn't waste money. And that's when money started to get wasted. And then my whole life in front of me started to change. And it's like, whoa, that's not what I was agreeing to or what I signed up for. And then the trust and the faith started to shatter a little bit. And that's when it started to break. So then I hung in there a few more years and said, gosh, 16 years is a long time to venture half of our lives together. I got to give it 2 more years. Maybe it'll change. And then when it didn't, we agreed to be able to disagree and say it's not working for us. And let's have a peaceful, nice divorce and split things as best way possible. Right. And but the money was the issue. And as I'm dating now and vetting and asking questions, if you talk about, well, you live 2 hours away from me, I don't know how I'm gonna get there. You're not the man for me. Or and I like a man to be a man, right? So if you got to drive 2 to 3 hours to me the first go, then you be that man and do the first go, and then I'll follow, because I'll drive anyway. I drive everywhere, right? But be that man and make the first go. But if you 2 hours away, it's already a problem. What we talking about? Why are we wasting time? Because it's about the money, and it's about he doesn't have enough faith and trust and belief either in me or in his finances. So it's always gonna be a problem. So that money has to be talked about. And, you don't have to go direct, like what's in your bank account and, how you paying your bills. And if you have child support and you have a new car, old car, none of that stuff matters, but your vision of money, right? Or you can ask the question, if you were given $1 million today, how would you spend it? If a guy said, I'm gonna buy this and that. Or if he says to me, well, I would like to pay off our home. if we married or we're going to get married, I'd like to pay off our home, and then I'd like to travel and and have our kids do this. Guess which man I'm picking, right? So if you have those conversations, you're able to weed things out so much easier. But again, I don't remember who said it, but that instinct and intuition, I think it might have been Russ, right from the beginning. If you know it's already an X, just keep it moving, because time is the only thing you cannot get back. And so many of us, self included, have been in relationships 2-3 years saying it's going to change, it's going to change. They're going to see how awesome I am and how good I cook food, and on the days I choose to be sexy, how sexy I am, and they're going to change. No, they're not changing. You can't take the stripes off a zebra. So you just have to keep it moving, because again, COVID has taught us so much that nothing is promised to us, not even tomorrow morning. So you just got to get, my crazy brother always says, you got to get it in when you can fit it in. And that's how I live my life to this current moment. Thank you.
All right, Polka, I'll let you have it, and then I'm going to read some comments from the audience.
Okay, so my comment really was addressing what Russ had to say in reference to what my brain is fried. I'm sorry, in reference to what Miss Linda had to say, sorry. So and I'm gonna say on this, I have to go with Miss Linda on that. And I don't, since I've been on the platform, I haven't really disagreed with much of what Russ had to say. But in this case, I have to say Miss Linda is on point with the spirit, which, if you recall, when I first started speaking, I said that submission, though the term is coined, well, not coined, but it came from the Bible, and that's where most of it is coming from, in the context of, submitting one to another, which is what it says, submitting one to another. So it's not I'm over you and you're over me. We're submitting to each other, depend on the situation and circumstances at the time, because we're both partners in a relationship. One is the leader at one moment, and the other one becomes the leader at the moment when the leader is no longer able to lead. And this is what Miss Linda is saying. We do it together. There is no I'm giving him all my control and that's it. We're in control, but we have moments when one is in control. So it's like co-partners, right? When one partner is weak, the other partner is strong. And when the other one partner is strong, the other partner may be weak. And sometimes you may be strong together, but it is a spiritual thing. And as she said, the Bible goes back to say, what God put together, let no man pull asunder. And so we carry the weight on a piece of paper that is given to us by man, that's saying, oh, this relationship is strong and this relationship will work. But when we put that faith and confidence in the Holy Spirit, it doesn't matter. You don't have to call him God. You don't have to call him Jesus. Whoever you see as the person that's leading you and guiding you, even if you want to say, I am the God, if you put that faith and confidence in you as the person that you're saying is God, and you look at the relationship and say, you know what, I'm going to move under this guidance and not let the piece of paper be the thing that guide us, then your relationship would be stronger, because you're not moving based on man's standard. You're moving based on your inner intuition or your spiritual standards. And that is what is going to set the pace, because we all have those intuitions or gut feelings or heart feelings, whatever we call it, that tells us this is not right, or this is wrong, or we should do this. When you're moving in that vein, and when you add love to that equation, it becomes unconditional, as she says. It does become unconditional. And when you make those agreements, or vows, even on man's standard, that's what you're saying. You're saying that I'm going to dedicate myself to this person. So if the person becomes disabled, does it change the relationship? Does it stop? Does the love go away? It only goes away if you have a conditional love. And so that's why I said, when the 75% of the business who fail, oh yeah, they have a passion, but they're not passionate. There's a difference. We all have passion, but the question is, are you passionate? The person who is passionate is going to take it to the next level. The person who just have a passion can have a passion, a fun feeling towards something they're doing, i.e. it's a hobby. It's not something that they're passionate enough to push, because with passion, real passion, comes work. And most people don't want to work. And that's why we have passionate. If you use your passion, you can eat. That's what the word passionate really means, to eat. And passion goes together. If you have that passion and you're pushing and you're doing the things that's required to make it work, then you can eat. So most people don't have that. but they want to say, I have a passion. Yeah, it's a hobby. Relationship to a lot of people is a hobby. They want to get into a relationship, but they treat it like a hobby. Oh, well, I love him. And it's a quasi love. It's not a true love. It's not a deep love. It's not an unconditional love. Understanding unconditional love is very, very difficult. It is very, very hard to love someone unconditionally. And so I'm going to say Miss Linda does have, it's not a perfect relationship. Russ is right. There is no human relationship that is perfect. We know this. However, are you willing to put in the work to make it work? Are you passionate enough about this person to deal with their idiosyncrasies, formulate the compromises, deal with whatever issues that may arise so that your relationship can actually work? Are you in that vein? Can you work to make it unconditional to the level that the physical attributes will allow you to? Because we're not God. We can't do it unconditionally all the time, but we can do it unconditionally to a certain extent, and that's what makes it works. And the rest is up to God. So I'm going to say on this one, Russ, yes, God plays a big factor. And I do agree with Miss Linda and that he plays a big factor in it. But you also play a factor. And so you're right on the sense that, you have to be willing to put in the work.
All right, I have some more comments from the audience. So all three of these are from Stacy. The first one is right. If you can work together as a team, that's good. That's something that people need to talk about when getting together. Then she also says, I agree. Some people are just not meant to be together, but some rather stay and be miserable for years. But those who have really worked it out, they put the work in respecting each other and having deep love for each other, then it can work. Then the last comment she said was, and the money issue, I feel for me, I'm the breadwinner in my home, and if a man can come and hold on. I'm the breadwinner in my home, and if a man can come and do what I do or better, then okay, come on. But I don't want to be the only one in the relationship bringing in money for the home, because for me, depending on the person, I would feel used. He has to be able to bring money into the home, and it's a must. I don't care where you work, just work and bring home a paycheck. And Hanny has her hand up. Take it.
Okay, so I've just been listening. It's been great dialogue so far. I wanted to add, so for me, like in my vetting process, like faith plays a big role. If the man doesn't adhere to the same belief system as me, I can't pursue him to be a candidate that I would marry. So I also think a man who has God in the center of his life is easier to compromise with. It's easier to have a relationship with this person. It goes vice versa. But just based off of what I've observed, the successful and healthy marriages that I've observed, and just my own personal navigation through what relationships look like, faith is a big deal, because a man who has faith speaks to you with such, the word in my language is naharis, which just means like just empathy, just this level of like generosity in his tone, and he understands that you're a woman, so it's not a harsh demeanor. And then even with that, it makes it easier to submit. Like you just, when that space is created for you, you unwillingly, not unwillingly, but willingly just submit. So it plays a part. But I wanted to say that that's huge. And like what Miss Linda was saying, it's important to have God in the relationship. Like that is an absolute given. So I agree 100% with that statement. I don't necessarily, I get what everyone is saying in terms of the business aspect of it, but I don't think I want to agree 100%. I am learning to realize that there are going to be standards that you have to set, but I don't want to treat it like a business, because the minute I put myself in the mind frame of it being a business, I don't have that emotional aspect of it that's there, right? I'm no longer emotionally attached. It's a business. So when people say, "Oh, don't take it personal, it's just business," that's what they mean. So it's like, for me, emotions are removed if I'm in the mindset of it being a business, which makes it really difficult for me to be in a relationship and pursuing someone for marriage if I don't have that emotional attachment and if that space isn't created for me. So those are the 2 points that I wanted to make. I appreciate it.
I understand where you're coming from on that, honey. So one last comment, and if any, I don't know if anybody else will have anything else to add after I read the comment. I'm probably gonna end it. So this one again is from Stacy. You have to bring something to the table. As I said earlier, I'm the breadwinner in my home. I'm the table and the chair. I even set the table. So what is he going to contribute? If I have to be the only one bringing the money in and he's just there to be there and not helping or looking for a job, then we can't be together. And that's understandable. I agree.
And
Yeah.
I would say, sorry, I would say yes to that in totality, as I've been saying. And I don't want someone or anyone to misunderstand me when I say it's a business. I don't mean that you're going to remove the emotional aspect that's attached to it. I'm saying you have to view it as something, a long-term objective, if that's what you're looking for. It's a long-term relationship. When you set up a business, you're looking at the long-term relationship with your business. You're looking at how you're going to launch it, how you're going to scale it, and how you're going to grow it. No different from a relationship. I get in a relationship, I'm meeting someone. How do I launch into the relationship? There's some discussion that you have to have. There's some tough questions that you have to ask. That's where you start to launch the relationship, the dating process. That's your launching pad. From there, you have to scale it. What is it about the person that is an irritant to me, but I might be able to compromise with? What is it about me that's an irritant to that person that they may be able to compromise with? These are the things that, because you're still in the vetting stage, even in scaling of the business. How is it going to grow? But if you have an idea in advance of how you want those particular section to go, how you're going to date, who you're going to date, how it should look, and how it should feel. Once you get into the dating process, how long before you move into the question of engagement or marriage, which is your scaling. And then from there, if you do go into a marriage, how are you going to grow together? Because you're going to grow no matter what, whether you grow old and not doing anything, or you grow old doing something, but you're going to grow. So how do you see that process? How is it going to look for you? Once you have that vision in your head ahead of schedule, then you can say, you know what, this is what I'm looking for, and I have a plan. So when I equate it to a business, I'm not saying that the relationship doesn't have an emotional attachment. It's like getting married to someone to give them a green card or citizenship. That's not what I'm alluding to. I'm alluding to the fact that just as you would want to grow your business, scale, launch your business, scale it and grow it to be a successful company, coming from no money to $1 million or $1 billion business trading on the NASDAQ or Wall Street or whatever. Those are your long-term objective. So you have to look at it the same way in your relationship. It's not necessary that I'm saying, oh, don't have an emotional attachment, or just do it because it's going to be something you can get into and both of you will just move through and be rich together. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about you need to be rich in emotions. You need to be rich in love. So you need to look at those identifiers and have a plan of action as to how you want it to look for you when you get into that relationship. Like Miss Linda said, I put that first. Then I put my husband and my kids next. Then I put me third. Then everything else comes below. There are people who start a relationship and they start it with their family. So they don't put God first. They don't even put the man or the woman first. It's their family. Whatever their family says, set the pace for that relationship. Well, you're starting it off wrong already. So, so that's why I'm saying business, because you're thinking of what's the perfect structure to set up a successful business. Well, what's the perfect structure to set up what could be a perfect relationship, even though we're imperfect people, right? So there's no business that, Elon Musk has his share of issues before his business got that big. We can think of all the many people who were in business who had many failures before their business got that rich. Same thing with relationship. You have failures, but what is your takeaway from the past failures, and how do you use those failures to vet yourself for success? That's the only reason I say business.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, if Londa will allow it. I agree with Hani and what Polka just said, and Linda, and as well. I believe if two people are both pursuing God primarily and have a common belief system, which would be a common framework by which they choose to live life and they see life through that same lens, a lot of everything works itself out, and people are able to show up with a lot of compassion and empathy, and both submit under God to each other. To Stacy in the audience, and for anyone who is in a relationship that it's not working out, I would say that what Russ said about having standards and having a vision for what you want in your life, that is key. And I don't know how long or how much time you put in, but the sunken cost fallacy is real, that you've contributed so much time and effort and resources to a relationship that it's not worth cutting ties. But time is the most valuable commodity available to us, and we cannot get it back, as it's been communicated already. I don't know your situation, but just as a generality for everyone, please avoid the sunken cost fallacy. I understand that marriage is to be forever. In some cases, whether it's abuse or whatever, I don't think that's advisable to get beaten forever. But there's a variety of other reasons. But in the case in which we are not legally bound or spiritually bound in any way, and we are just dating or it's a relationship, please avoid the sunken cost fallacy and get out and find some standards, and then adhere to them, and bring into your life what you need, what you deserve, because find your worth, and find someone that appreciates your value. And I hope everyone can live a happy life and find the relationship that they deserve, because we all deserve love, and empathy, and compassion in our life. Londa, thanks for having us.
You're welcome, and that was well put, Charles. We're going to go on and end this. Thank you guys for joining me this evening. I had a nice time with this discussion, and hopefully, maybe in the future, we can have another discussion on another great topic. You guys take care. Thank you for tuning in to Sip and Talk. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page. Follow my link tree. You guys have a good evening. Bye.